As bad as things have been for Disney Star Wars over the past decade, whether it's backlash for something like The Last Jedi, whether it's the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, which really tore apart a fan base, or whether it's the dog shit that's been shoveled out, like Mando Season 3, Book of Boba Fett, and Ahsoka, this, the Acolyte, now holds the crown for the biggest disaster in all of Disney Star Wars. Not only is no one tuning in to watch this, as its first episode broke a Lucasfilm Disney Plus record, and not in a good way. The least viewership of any of these series they've ever put out on Disney Plus. But of course, we've seen the reaction from the people that did give it a chance, that did watch it. As we speak right now, The Acolyte is sitting at 17% from the audience on Rotten Tomatoes, and that number, it doesn't look like it's going up. It's only continuing to go down. Who knows how much worse it can possibly get, but episode 3 certainly left a lot to be desired. Episode 3 was the one that people knew from a couple leaks, things like that it was really going to be a massive shit show, and for a lot of people, it absolutely was. And now we're finding out a little bit more about, who Leslye Headland would turn to for guidance when making The Acolyte. And spoiler alert, it's the same thing that I've been trying to tell people for the past 5 years, since I started my YouTube channel. And even before I was on YouTube, things I've been saying since, around 2008, about the man in the middle right here, Dave Filoni. Now, I think that this picture is very representative about what you can expect for the future of Star Wars. I've said it all along, even when people were pushing these insane theories, trying to push this bullshit out there that, Dave Filoni's really working against the agenda, against Kathleen Kennedy at Lucasfilm. That was never true, because Kathleen Kennedy's agenda has always also been Dave Filoni's agenda. And now, in the aftermath, towards what a lot of people view as the worst episode we've ever seen from Disney Plus Star Wars content, Leslye Headland, Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant, is revealing a little bit about how exactly all of this went down. The Acolyte showrunner reveals Dave Filoni's involvement in making the series. And yes, despite Dave Filoni just recently getting that official title of Chief Creative Officer or whatever it is for Lucasfilm, this is something that he's been doing for years. Going back years, all the way to the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. A lot of people didn't want to buy it, they didn't want to believe it because they were still pushing this bullshit reporting that was never true about Dave Filoni and Favreau. They're really working against Kathleen Kennedy. No, Dave Filoni was also very crucial. Deborah Chow sang his praises about how often she'd go to him for advice while making the dog shit Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Well, he's helped out a lot with The Acolyte too, apparently. Leslye Headland says Dave Filoni was a mentor in making The Acolyte, and that he guided her to include witches that weren't the Night Sisters. Here's the quote. Dave Filoni very quickly became the kind of mentor of mine in terms of navigating what this part of the timeline would be like for both the Jedi and other Force users. It was kind of this aha moment for me when he told me, not all witches are Night Sisters. Now, although I know there's a lot of people, maybe it's because people were so in denial about Dave Filoni, so they have to be like, well, he must have been corrupted somehow, and they're trying to bring his family members into it. I don't need to do that, because this is the person that Dave Filoni has always been. He's always been somebody that, one, has an agenda. Absolutely, this dude has always had a very feminist agenda when it comes to his content, and maybe just now people are realizing what's going on. But two, this is also a guy who has seen things that happen in the history of Star Wars in the expanded universe, which is now deemed as legends, and he takes those things and bastardizes them time after time. Whether it's the Night Sisters, whether it's the Mandalorians, whether it's Thrawn's character, whether it's the Nogri, a laundry list of shit, whether it's the clones. Everything that Dave Filoni pulls from, he bastardizes and makes worse. That has been obvious at this point to somebody like me. Again, here's some of my videos. Young baby-faced Ryan, right? Dave Filoni's true agenda exposed. Luke and Leia roles in sequel trilogy, his idea. This is 4 years ago. What about this one? 4 years ago, Dave Filoni's comment shouldn't surprise anyone. Lucasfilm's agenda is clear. And yes, this is the dude who stood up there years ago in front of some women's conference panel and shit all over Star Wars fans who had a problem with the depiction of a character like Rey. And he said, oh, you don't like these Mary Sue characters? Well, guess what? You're going to get another one, and another one, and another one. How unfair. He actively ridiculed and mocked Star Wars fans. That's what he did, because that is who this guy is. Now, the way I kind of look at this, and as somebody who's read a lot of this shit, back in the books and the comics and everything, you did have a lot of other different little sects of Force users. Now, there were the Night Sisters, of course, which is what a lot of people know of, but there was also an entirely different group of people on Dathomir that he erased in the Clone Wars era. He completely changed Dathomir, changed the Night Sisters, changed everything, but there was a lot of other different clans of witches and things like that on Dathomir that weren't Night Sisters. And not only did we see that in books and comics in the 90s, we also saw that. Somebody reminded me, because to me, Courtship of Princess Leia in 1994, that's like the definitive one that really gets into detail about Dathomir, about the Night Sisters, about the witches, all this shit. But even in the Ewok movie, we're talking in the mid-'80s that George Lucas obviously involved in, they did have a Dathomiri witch involved in that as well. So this is not something new. This is once again Dave Filoni taking something and bastardizing it in every way he can. And it just so happens to be witches that aren't the Night Sisters, who use their powers in a different way. So my guess is when they were talking, that's what got brought up. He's like, the Night Sisters aren't the only, Force-using witches. There's other ones out there too. And that's probably what gave the entire idea for Leslye Headland to take and run with her lesbian coven of Force witches who immaculately conceived 2 black female twins. So for those people that are still holding out hope, after him basically saying that one of his biggest mentors was Rian Johnson, after him saying all these things about Star Wars fans, after him consulting on all these terrible projects before, let alone the dog shit that he is directly involved with directing or producing, I don't understand how anybody at this point could deny the reality. This has always been Dave Filoni's agenda. He's always been bad for Star Wars. He will continue to be bad for Star Wars. And these 3 people right here, they're connected at the hip. They have the same agenda. It always has been that way. And you don't need some other conspiracy theory about, well, maybe because his family member this, family member that. No, this is Dave Filoni. He bastardizes everything he can from the expanded universe. He puts his agenda in play every time he can, and his agenda happens to coincide with Leslye Headland and Kathleen Kennedy. He has been doing this for years at Lucasfilm on all these other projects, and I'm glad. I hope every single motherfucker that tried to tell you that this piece of shit was the savior of Star Wars, I hope all of you motherfuckers are forced to acknowledge the reality that Dave Filoni is just as big of a problem for Lucasfilm and Disney Star Wars as Kathleen Kennedy is, if not more. And he always has been. Acolyte's a fucking disaster, and your boy Dave Filoni is a big part of that. Let me know your thoughts about this in the comments section below. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.